Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There may be strong language and adult themes. Okay, and we have a serious lag between us and YouTube today.
There's a YouTube thing.
Eli's just after I hit the live button, I was watching it on YouTube, and it was like 1.5, 2 seconds before YouTube picked up the feed.
A little bit longer than that for me, but yes, I tend to prefer the 0.05 millimeter mechanical pencils.
Yeah, let's see. I saw we had a lively discussion going in the side chat that Commander 401 was recommending some colorful mechanical pencils. And yeah, I would also go along with that. The ones that have a bigger eraser are definitely better. And then we have Nerdy Rodent and Greg Hartwick and Godless Scummer out there and NJ.
Nudge. I nudge.
Brilliant.
And I'm going to just assume that we have Kira out there, even though she never says anything until the last 2 minutes of the stream. Kira is always lurking and never says anything until we're signing off.
Well, that just shows you how much she actually likes us.
Well, I suppose I'm not really criticizing because that's pretty well much how I am, on parties in the meat world, that I tend to fade off into the corner and nobody really notices me there.
In the meat world?
That's the one where we all operate.
Yeah, where people have physical bodies.
We're not just floating.
Oh, okay. So it's not like cannibalism or anything like that.
No.
Well, it could be, but that's not required. No.
Well, there should be here then.
No, we're just in a spectacular free fall.
I could never get used to mechanical pencils. I have this. I push really hard when I'm using a writing instrument, and I would break the lead every 5 minutes. It was just.
I understand how that can happen.
I tried to look for like a 4 millimeter thick one, but nobody makes those.
No, generally you can get 5 millimeter or 0.5 or 0.7 millimeter are the ones I see. I like them just because, the regular pencils, they start to blunt and you get wider lines, and my handwriting's pretty much illegible to begin with.
$12.99 for a 4 millimeter mechanical pencil.
Oh, okay.
By Roma.
Something else I've noticed is that, over the last couple of decades, regular pencils, they're making them cheaper and cheaper to the point that they're almost impossible to sharpen, that the points break off while you're sharpening them.
I haven't never seen that.
Hey, Porpoise.
I tend to prefer mechanical pencils as they produce less waste.
Yeah, well, you can get a consistent line with them. And I still have not learned to use any kind of computer design program. So I am still doing it old school with my drafting board.
Oh, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that.
It's what I learned in high school.
I always found the mechanical pencils to be very, very ungratifying because you have to push really, really hard to dent them when you bite them and stuff. And it just wasn't as good as a regular pencil.
You're not supposed to do that.
It's a pencil, isn't it? I used to eat pencils. I found it to be much, much better than chewing gum. Everybody needs that fiber. So,
Yeah, when I was in grade school, I used to eat paper.
Yikes.
see, paper can constipate you. That's not good.
How can it constipate you? Paper's nothing but fiber.
Yeah, but when you chew it, it turns into just that basic mash, and that mash will congeal with your stomach acids, and you get these little slugs that are trying to get out, but they all gang together more, and they'll attract food particles to themselves, and they get bigger and bigger, and holy shit, you got a problem.
Yeah, I guess it could like form paper mache in your intestines.
Exactly. So now, of course, you could always use that as a artistic medium and sculpt things, I suppose.
No, I am not sculpting with anything I excrete.
You're such a chicken.
No, I am not, because chickens use their excrement to build their nest.
Oh my god.
Most birds build their nest out of something they excrete, either their saliva or their dung.
I would think not their dung.
Some species do. Some species mud their nests together with their own feces.
You're going to have to show that to me. I just don't buy that. I'm sorry.
Little dirty birdie feet.
I could see seagulls doing that because they're just disgusting in every other respect too. But although seagulls do look good enough to eat, they're the right size, and they got that eye that stares at you, and it'd be fun to cook them up and suck that eye right out.
That sentence went in a different direction than I expected it to.
Well, actually, I'm sure you've probably eaten seagulls already. See, that's the secret of McDonald's, is that they put steroids in the French fry oil, because then the seagulls pick up all the French fries in the parking lots, and at night after the store closes, they harvest the seagulls, and that's actually all the stuff that they sell as chicken. So the chicken nuggets and chicken patties are actually seagulls.
So that you're just showing that why they are overcharging for chicken McNuggets. They should be seagull McNuggets or gull McNuggets.
Yep.
McGull. McGull.
McGullets.
Yeah, McGullets. I think that works.
Okay, now are the ones that stick to the inland harbors, are they actually bagels?
Probably.
How about the ones that hang around dumps?
Dump gulls. And out here we call them corn gulls. or lunch, one of the two.
Hey, Jeff.
Hello.
Hey.
Yep.
Stu, I'd be afraid to eat those. Would those things, if they taste if they taste so good, you eat too much and you're just going to get dumb as well?
Yeah, they are dumb birds.
Yeah, one thing about chickens, though, never turn your back on a rooster.
No.
Why are they going to? Are they going to? Never mind. I can't say that without getting you in trouble for the first 10 minutes of the show.
They will charge you and literally rip your ass open.
Oh, you said you demonetized yourself.
What you can do is you hold the bird down. You take your two fingers, you put it on the back of his neck, and hold his head to the ground for a few minutes. That'll show dominance to the bird. And
why is the seagull the state bird of a landlocked state?
What state?
Utah.
Really?
That's what Sinister Porpoise said.
They've got the Great Salt Lake.
Oh, so their seagulls are just too salty to eat.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are days that I feel like eating a 10-pound salt lick. So, something that tastes like an oversalted chicken would probably be appealing to me.
Do salty Utah gulls have like special patterns on their wings, like a monarch butterfly, that say "Don't eat me"? Nobody wants to answer that, huh?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I'm sorry, I was trying to reply to the side chat and I didn't quite hear what you said there.
I was just wondering that if the salty seagulls of Utah. You see, now I can't remember.
It was something about if their wings were like butterflies.
Oh yeah. Do they have a special pattern on their wings? You know, so that the bad guys know not to eat this one because it's too salty.
I don't think anybody knows the answer to that, Jen.
It doesn't seem that difficult. Gosh. Hey, Jeff, do you have monarch butterflies in your part of the world?
Monarchs. I'm not sure if we got monarchs or not. Probably. I mean, I suppose the most sort of common ones here would be like peacocks and red admiral butterflies. I'd have thought, but
yeah, we have red admirals here too.
I would think it being the United Kingdom, you would have a monarch.
Yeah, probably. I'm not a big. I don't really know too much about butterfly species.
Actually, I think that monarch butterflies are only native to North America because their breeding ground is in Mexico.
No, that's true. That's true. I wouldn't want to ever see a monarch with the visage of Charles on their face. It would just, ugh.
Yeah, good point.
A species of moth which proves evolution before the industrial revolution, moth is long way, brilliant returns like mounted lightning without moth. Yeah, I've heard that story. It's a type of moth, and they always have these two pictures of how well it blends in with the tree bark.
Yeah. These are moths that were native to the UK. That during the Industrial Revolution, when they were burning a lot of coal, originally most of the moths were white and just a few were gray or black. And when all the trees wound up getting covered with the coal soot, then that was favoring the darker colored moths, and the white ones became a very small minority of the population.
Don't the English also eat? They're talking about edible nest, bird nest, or something in chat. Don't the English also eat like sparrow beaks or something like that?
No, what did you get that idea from?
maybe it was finches.
Yeah. Hey, Heat Shield. The puppy is Mage's puppy, Molly.
British cuisine isn't like renowned for being the greatest in the world, but we're not that bad.
British cuisine is the reason that you tried to conquer the entire world. It was all about needing spices.
Yeah.
The spice must flow.
Yeah. Well, aren't pigeons kind of common on the menu in France?
Well, we eat pigeons here as well. Just not the city, you're not the city pigeons.
Squirrels, yeah, I can eat those.
Okay, otter
Raccoons,
noses.
and-
Spooky, you're going to have to provide more information on this.
Yeah, are those deep fried or like just basic crispy?
Well, of course, you should we deep fry everything.
Crunchy frog surprise. I'm particularly partial to goat stomach myself.
I mean, we even deep fry and batter Mars bars for dessert. So
Oh, see, now they do
Yeah.
that here too with the Mars bars.
Yeah, Minnesota's kind of known for deep frying anything on a stick.
Well, the other one is
NJ,
Go
the
on.
Hoppy Bunny beat me to it. I was about to mention the haggis.
yeah.
Yeah, that's where my my preference for the goat stomach came from.
That's
Most people throw that part out, but no, not me.
yeah. Well, we'll even deep fry and batter Cadbury's cream eggs over here. So for Easter, I'm not even joking on that one. That actually happens.
What is that? I missed it, Jeff.
I said we even deep fry and batter Cadbury's cream eggs. That's not a joke.
Oh.
That actually happens.
At the Minnesota State Fair, there is a booth called Anything on a Stick, where literally you can bring them anything and they will batter it and deep fry it.
There's a hot dog place down in Illinois near Springfield that deep fries their hot dogs, and they're just a major hit and have been for like a couple generations.
Isn't that called a corn dog?
No, no, they're not wrapped in anything. They're directly deep fried.
You got to try an good old fashioned British battered sausage from the chip shop.
Yeah, deep fry hot dogs because they were way too healthy to begin with.
And then they do them for various amounts of time. The longer you deep fry them, of course, the crispier, crunchier they get and stuff. And bigger, they split, and blow up and things like that. And it actually looks tasty. I must say.
Actually, it doesn't sound bad.
I don't have a grease cooker, so I don't get to do that myself. And I have yet to find a restaurant that'd be willing to do it up here. You're bullshitting me. No, really, they do this. I saw it on public television. Public television has this show that they put on periodically, maybe once a year or so. That's these guys' quest for the perfect hot dog, and they go all over the country and try different regional specialty ways of preparing the hot dog. And you wouldn't think there's that many ways to do it, but there is apparently.
I didn't watch it, but there was a video that came up in my YouTube feed just the other night that it was from one of my history channels about them going through every regional hot dog they could find.
I'm not a fan of Chicago hot dogs. I just think that's too much glorp on one dog. No thanks.
Yeah, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and I'm a heathen because I put ketchup on them.
Well, ketchup is what belongs on hot dogs. Nothing else.
Yeah, well, according to people in Chicago, that's blasphemy.
Well, it's Chicago.
You don't put mustard on them then, Jen?
Not me. No. But mustard's bad. It's
I don't really like mustard anyway, but
it's the devil's condiment.
I prefer Dijon mustard or spicy brown mustard.
Well, as the legend goes, the term hot dog was actually coined in Chicago, supposedly at Wrigley Field. Because
Okay.
the German vendors were selling dachshund sausages, which one of the American vendors found that too difficult to pronounce, so he started calling his hot dogs. As I say, that's the legend. I don't know if that's actually true or not.
Well, it may be.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's always sort of been hot dogs always kind of been associated with baseball a bit, haven't they? So
yeah, definitely in the U.S., having a hot dog at the ballpark is just the stereotypical American thing.
What's the stereotypic British soccer snack?
Pie. Pork pies normally, yeah. Pucker pies.
Never heard of that. What is
So
it?
is that like a meat pie?
Well, pork pies are usually quite popular, but yeah, basically meat pies are that's the sort of traditional thing. I must admit, not when I go to a soccer match. No, not for me. Not that I hardly ever go to football soccer matches anyway, but
isn't the Australians have a type of meat pie that's an equivalent to America's pasty?
Well,
which actually originates from Welsh, I believe.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's generally associated with County of Cornwall, and which is like it's somewhat, it does have a bit of it's in England, but it does have a lot of like Gaelic sort of history to it. I mean, there was like a Cornish language, that's very rare. There's not many people that speak it.
Heat shield mustard on scrambled eggs.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that one. I've never tried that.
Yellow mustard or brown mustard?
Yeah, there actually are two different types of pasties. One is the Cornish pasty, and one is a Nordic thing. And they're very similar. It's just a different blend of vegetables they put in them.
Yeah, the Cornish will get a little bit. The Cornish actually will get a little bit touchy about things being called pasties if they're not proper Cornish pasties, and they'll insist that they're pies. It's a bit like the French with champagne, I suppose. But
there's a town in Wisconsin which supposedly has the credit of introducing the pasty to America, and that's how they insist it be pronounced as pasty.
Yeah,
people want to gravitate towards pasty, and that's what you wear on your nipple.
Yeah, it's a pasty. It's not a pasty.
Yeah, northern Wisconsin and northern Michigan, you can get in fights for calling it a pasty. But yeah, they will claim that it was more the Nordic variety, that it was the Finns and the Swedes that brought it to the U.S.
Skits is here. Hi, Skits.
Yep. I don't even know what language that is.
What in northern Minnesota answers?
That's either Cornish or Welsh, I'm guessing. I only caught that bit of that sentence, but I'm guessing that's either Cornish or Welsh at Nerdies.
Well, heat shield, if I can find somewhere that has brown mustard in those little condiment packs, I'll snatch them from whoever's selling them and try that sometime.
If you've got a Quick Trip in your town, I'd try there. They might have them.
Maybe.
So I missed the bit opening a few minutes about pencils. So we're assuming we're off that topic already.
We were talking about the thickness of Stool's dick.
Oh, okay. So
0.05 millimeters.
That's
so
it used to be 0.7, but he's getting older.
not. You're suggesting there's not a lot of lead left in that particular pencil.
We love you, Stool.
Stool here.
He was.
I'm not.
Oh. Well, I suppose for us in the UK, it's officially the 75th anniversary of our National Health Service today. Introduced 75 years ago today.
Well, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Too bad it doesn't seem it's going to make it to 76.
Well, the bloody Conservative Party get their way, you know. I mean, they're I feel it's like they're deliberately trying to wreck it.
It seems like it. It's the same thing in the U.S. that the Republicans are always trying to defund Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
Mrs. Thatcher is dead, but her legacy lives on.
Well,
because if poor people aren't suffering enough, they're not going to take the shit jobs.
And our former Labour Prime Minister today also saying, well, we've got to start having some private industry within the National Health Service, which, like I said, Tony Blair is probably the best Conservative Prime Minister we've ever had.
I have never seen even one function improve once it's nationalized. All that private enterprise and private sector crap is just bullshit. And they do not do better than a government agency.
Well, we're finding that out quite hard at the moment, especially with certain utilities that have been privatized, like water companies. But they're having one particular company that's Thames Water, which is there's a long thing to go into. There's a lot of issues with them at the moment, and of course, I mean, the other classic one is our railways. That's always been a bloody disaster. The privatization of our railways.
Yeah, we did that too. We got crappy rail service.
But I mean, listen to like sort of conservatives say, "Well, I remember how bad British Rail was." It says, "Yeah, because you bastards run it, because you're bloody bastards like Maggie Thatcher and whatever ran the fucking railways into the ground." So everyone was like, so it got to the point when everyone used to privatise it, everyone said, "Thank God," not realising what the hell we're about to
that's
let ourselves in for.
That's the conservative concept, whether it's Tories or American Republicans, is to take a program, decimate it, then underfund it because it's not performing, and then complain about it. So you cut more of its budget, and on and on. It goes the cycle until it's so bad it has to be. People are happy to get rid of it.
I was just saying something like that earlier.
And then you'll find out if you think like our country, then the particular government minister that's let's put it this way: the Conservatives in the 80s and 90s privatised so much of our nationalised industries and services. It's funny that it's always funny that the particular Tory minister that was steered through the privatisation always ended up on the board of one of these private companies. It's really strange how that happened.
Yeah, well, that's like the Republicans were trying to privatize the post office, and the guy that Trump appointed as Postmaster General was heavily invested in FedEx.
Yeah.
That's not a conflict of interest, is it?
No. No, Republicans don't have conflicts of interest ever. They're pure.
The nature of things.
I mean, I'm not exactly enthralled about the state of like the British Labour Party at the moment, but I just think at the moment, I just want this lot gone so bloody badly that, you know, this Conservative lot have got to go now.
Yeah, I'm kind of holding my breath through the 2024 election just to see.
I'm gonna have to contemplate whether I actually do a tactical vote and vote Liberal, because where I live, it's generally the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats that are the only. Labour are a bit out of the race, but I mean, I've never really wanted to vote for the Liberals, but I'm almost tempted to do it this year just because if it costs the Conservative Party a seat, you know, they need to be gone.
That sentiment continues to build around here, you know, very strongly pushed by the young folk who are just not conservative at all. But they laugh when the government tries to convince them to be, you know.
I don't think most of our young generation are conservative. The problem is similar problem to what you guys have got. That's getting them out to vote.
I was having a little discussion with a libertarian in the other day or two, and apparently, according to his mindset, drug prices are skyrocketed because of the greed in the pharmaceutical company. It's because as they're over-regulated.
I'd say that if voting Lib Dem is going to cost the Tories a seat, then you should do it.
Yeah, I've got to think about that. As long as it doesn't
cost Labour a seat, you know.
Well, it's kind of the thing, because the problem was, you know, last time people did some tactical voting or whatever, we got this coalition between the Liberals and the Conservatives anyway. But you know, so I've always been resistant to doing like a tactical vote ever since then. But I'm just thinking it might be worth it this time, because I just feel like, you know, look, the Conservatives have got to go.
The Tories are terrible, and they're not getting any better.
I mean, it's just really it's the sheer level of bloody corruption with this particular lot, though. It's really.
Well, you know, just bring back your pal Boris, and he'll straighten it all out for you.
Well, he's not even a member of Parliament anymore.
I know, it's great.
Yeah, and he quit before he was pushed, because the report into him found that he had deliberately lied to Parliament.
Oh yeah,
about his parties at Number 10 during lockdown.
Yeah, if lying to Congress would get people out of office, we'd have so many empty seats right now.
I am absolutely just so I'm tongue-tied. I'm so mad at the Supreme Court. You know, the fucking traitorous, lying, double-standard pricks taking millions in bribes and not recusing themselves from cases and say, "Oh no, it's not a conflict of interest." Bullshit. There's no way.
Yep.
Yeah, the Heritage Foundation has a lot to answer for.
Oh God, the Heritage.
A whole lot.
The Heritage Foundation. Oh my God, those guys are about a month or two ago had our former Prime Minister out there to give him a talk about economics and the free market. This being the former Prime Minister that lasted 6 weeks and managed to lose £30 billion out of the British economy in 6 weeks. This is who they're taking. This is who they want as like get economic tips on economic growth from.
Well, be careful, because the Heritage Foundation here is the funder and manipulator behind all the very fascist-leaning programs and efforts that the government is, or people of the government outside the legal channels are trying to do.
They invited her. They invited her to speak in America. Liz Truss, they actually invited her to speak out there, and of course she's out there just making excuses for. I mean, I just love the way she talks about the left-wing economic establishment, because of course, look, the city, if there was one thing the city of London and the financial sector's known for, is having a lot of communists.
Liz,
Liz,
the lettuce queen Truss.
That's the one. Apparently that really annoyed her, the lettuce thing.
Yeah, but I agree with NJ. You would have been better off sticking with the head of lettuce.
It's the damage she could have done had she still been there. I think no. I mean, because that unfortunately, you were dealing with someone who was an absolute ideologue in Liz Truss.
Well, we have states that have bankrupted themselves for similar reasons. I'm trying to remember what state. Like 10 years ago, the Republican legislature of Iowa or Wisconsin or Oklahoma, one of those states, actually had to remove the governor because he basically got rid of all corporate taxes and was going to bankrupt the state.
It wasn't Wisconsin.
It was Midwestern. I forget. I'm sorry. I should have checked before.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that, so don't know what state that would be referring to.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why people think we might have been better off with her still there, because it would have just been guaranteed the Conservatives got annihilated at the next election. But with the next election being more than a year away, someone like that, I dread to think the kind of damage she could have got away with if she'd been left in place. So.
It's called Starve the Beast. William F. Buckley had this idea, right? You can't get rid of all the government programs right off because you'll get your ass heaved out of office. But if you cut taxes faster than you can ever cut spending, you eventually wind up with a situation where the interest payments on your debt become so horrendous. You get to say to your political opponents, we can't afford to do any of the things that we used to be able to do because I decided that I wasn't going to pay for them.
Yeah. Well, effectively, it was a tax cut that she tried to put through, which did her in effectively, because it was pretty much all the economic advisors saying you cannot do this unfunded tax cut, and they were all warning her what was going to happen, that it was going to destroy the economy in like a very short space of time, and that's exactly what it did.
Actually, one of the reasons why I came on the stream, you were talking about how the Conservatives destroy government programs. I had something like a government big brother, big sister thing. I lacked discipline as an early teenager, and I was headed on the road to bloody prison as far as because my grandparents spoiled my brother and I rotten. Anyway, this guy, Pat, he was a mental health professional. I mean, an RN with mental health credentials. We got him for about a year and a half before the program was privatized. The guy the new agency came in, and Sanjay was like, Pat doesn't want to come here because he hates you. And I'm like, Pat was here when he wasn't getting paid, you idiot. And then he says, all right, I'm going to be quite honest with you. My boss is good friends with Jeb Bush, the guy who basically got the contract. Woo woo. And my boss wants to see you fail because they believe programs like this don't work. So congratulations, Mr. Conservative Christian comes in and says, I want to see you fail. And that really was a poison pill for conservatism for me forever. I want to see you fail. Pat changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah, it's that they'll come in, you know, like I said, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy for them, doesn't it? You know, that they say that these state programs are bad and that they'll fail, then they will ensure that they do fail.
And just think, going from a registered nurse with mental health credentials to some guy who used to work in a bar. That's the difference between the state agency and the private company that took over the job of the state agency.
Well,
Yeah,
we have. Go ahead.
Yeah, just because when things are run for profit, they don't have a reason to care about people.
Yep.
What were you going to say, Jenny?
We have oodles of statistics that show clearly over the last 50 years or so that every time a Republican has control of the government, the economy is absolutely decimated. And every time a Democrat is in charge of the economy, it gets fixed and improves and becomes very good and almost debt-free. But the Republicans have gotten so good at lying to the people and hiding those statistics with their lies that they keep being thought of as the party of economic responsibility, when the opposite is true.
Well, Republicans mostly get people to vote on bullshit issues that get them emotional, rather than paying attention to the things that really affect their lives.
Well, pocketbook is one of those issues that people are, all politics are local that way.
But I mean, I think though this is why. I mean, I'm assuming it's the same over in the States, though. But certainly, this is why the nasty rhetoric is being hyped up now. Everything everything else they're doing is going so badly. They've got to, they've got to get, like I said, get an emotional response and hype up the rhetoric on whether it's us was at the moment is stop the boats is the big thing at the moment that they're hyped up the nasty rhetoric on.
Okay, bye, Steph. Take care.
See you later.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yep, it is. After Jan 6th, they pull, like critical race theory has been around since the late 50s in some form, since the mid 60s in its roughly current form right now. No one heard about it until 2021, where they created a boogeyman. They started taking the QAnon crap and calling everyone people who love children way too much. And the worse the Republicans get, the more the rhetoric has to be ramped up to slander the other side. I mean, I love taking the fact that Maggie Thatcher allowed the NHS to negotiate prescription drug prices in 1979. And then I've asked people, Maggie Thatcher did this in 1979. How is it communism if we do it here in America? There's no answer.
Yeah.
But yet everything, what they're saying makes no sense, because if what they're saying is true, why did the Cold War exist? Because the Cubans had James Bond's healthcare plan, right?
The humor of the whole thing, if you can say humor, is that the things that nowadays they are screaming about is communist, 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 is actually antithetical to what they're really behind, which is getting rich, and you know, fair market capitalism and stuff like that, on free market capitalism. You know, that's a negotiation for a better price is standard procedure in capitalism. And they like to call it communist or fascist, or I mean, well, yeah, they like to call us fascist communists. They're so politically astute. Oh
Yep.
God.
Yeah,
Get called a
and
Nazi, and I'm sorry.
they scream socialism as being a slur, and yet they wave Nazi flags, not realizing that Nazi is an abbreviation for National Socialist Party.
Yeah.
Which is really bad, and I try not to bring that up at all, because they took that name strictly because they knew it would be less distasteful to people to call themselves socialists instead of nationalists.
Oh, and that creates a whirlwind of bullshit, right?
Exactly.
Preach
Exactly.
2012.
So
The preacher finds out I am voting for Obama. Preacher calls me a Nazi. I walk out of the synagogue singing the Israeli national anthem. And he never backed down.
Wait a minute, you were a Nazi for voting for a black man
who had a Jewish chairwoman named Debbie. And they kept claiming that Obama never read the Bible, but yet there's a story about Barack and Debbie. And when my coworkers were saying that the Democrats were these were the anti-Semites that I was working with, they were referring to the Democrats as the Jewish party because they had Barack and Debbie. And I'm like, wouldn't that make you Philistines? There is no connection between the crap coming out of their mouths and any context. It's just hate, 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 hate.
They have spent decades learning triggering language. Excuse me, I got something in my throat.
You mean Newspeak from 1984, right? It's effectively what it is. It's a language that actually diminishes your ability to think.
It came out of the Newt Gingrich era. A guy named Frank Lutz, I think it was, became their guru of language, and he constructed all their various slogans and words to start calling things different that were completely, again, antithetical to what they really were. The classic being George Bush's clean coals, or clean clean environment, and getting permits or giving permits out to his rich guys to take off the tops of mountains. You know, just absolutely decimate an environment and call it clean air or something like that.
No, Trump just holds the Bible upside down and has people beating the shit out of other people for a photo op.
Yeah, but he loves 2 Corinthians.
You know, there's actually like Timothy 6, which talks about what you're talking about, Frank Luntz did. If anyone does not teach in accordance with the soundness, they're puffed up with conceit, they understand nothing. They have unhealthy cravings for quarrels about words, which produce enmity, slander, and division, and constant frictions amongst men who are depraved in mind and deprived in truth, imagining that godliness is the means of gain. And there you have the religious right. In a nutshell, we're warned about them in the Bible.
Oh, interesting. I still don't believe in the Bible, but interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know the particular verse, but I knew the general thing of that was in there.
Well, thing is, most atheists and most skeptics know the Bible better than most of the people who claim to be Christians. And Jews are taught from a really young age to argue with the Bible and not to believe everything in it, but not to discount. You know, like Maimonides said, if you believe everything in the Bible, you're an idiot. If you believe nothing in the Bible, basically, I'm going to paraphrase, you're also an idiot, because it's like a mix of myth, fiction, psychology, and history. It's not meant to be taken literally.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, that's why I can respect the Jewish faith more, because they do consider it, the job of everyone in the congregation to debate the meanings.
if anybody hears the squeaking, that's just Molly playing with her new toy.
Ah, that's
Squeaky,
what that
squeaky. So cute.
When I bought it, I didn't realize it had a squeaker in it.
Oh, it's fine.
Squeakers are great. I mean, if you can actually remove them from some toys, and then you get to be a squeaker yourself. There was a kid on the news time back, maybe within the last year or two, where he swallowed a squeaker, and every time he would breathe, it would squeak. And they did a news report on it. The kid was okay. I mean, they had to remove it, of course. But it was he just got a charge out of it. He was laughing. And, it really was kind of a funny story. But he's okay. They got it out.
It was this slider toy that was supposed to slide across the ground. So it acts as sort of like a self-fetch toy. And she's been playing with. She played with it almost nonstop for an hour. Remember when I first gave it to her?
It's a wonderful feeling when you have an animal and you find the right toy that just drives them crazy happy.
Yeah.
Well, I always find it fun when I vacuum. I put all of Sammy's toys, into one of these can flats from the supermarket. And it's always fun to just watch and see which toys he picks out first.
Yeah, that's what I use for Molly's little box.
I think somebody should invent a cat toy that you attach to your ceiling, and is a rotating with some other mechanical movements inside, so that it directs laser pointers to different spots, so the pattern is not exactly the same all the time. And you just come on randomly and fuck around for a while and drive the cat nuts, and then go off and then come back on later.
It's always a lot of fun with cats and laser pointers, isn't it? It's always a lot of fun.
Just don't use it for dogs.
The best thing about laser pointers and cats is that a lion and a tiger and a cougar and all them will do it too. It's like a genetic thing with them.
It seems we have our commander here. Her penguins will apparently also do it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I was watching a little clip of penguins in a zoo with a laser pointer, and they were following it around.
I saw this film yesterday. Oh, it was wonderful. Some zoo has a beluga whale.
Oh, I saw that clip.
And apparently it has learned to be able to charge the glass and do this big mouth opening thing that seems kind of threatening and scare the fuck out of people. And it seems to enjoy it.
Like the reaction from the crowd, huh?
It knows that if it doesn't get the reaction the first time, that it do it again even bigger. And it does, and then they get scared, and it's you can almost see the damn thing laughing. It's so good.
It's. I mean, I hope that's what it is. That the whale is actually enjoying it, because I hope that I've seen the clip.
Yeah, they've got to find some way to entertain themselves in there. It is wrong to keep animals that intelligent in captivity.
Yeah.
I agree.
And it's true that there are plenty of non-human animals that laugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People really underestimate the sophistication of the animal brain.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm constantly saying how people just underestimate cats and dogs, that they've got a lot more going on there than most people give them credit for.
Apparently, one study from a couple of years ago had found 65 different species of animals that have their own form of laughter.
Interesting.
I think there's I think there's only one type of animal that in the world that I'm aware of that is truly stupid, and it's a kind of North American ape called the chimpanzee.
Oh, you mean the North American Cheeto-faced shit-gibbon?
That's the problem with them is they're that way because their hair grows to the inside, not the outside.
That's like the one. What's the one? That's the one. Bill Hicks used to say about like the creationists or whatever. I believe God created me in one day. And he's like, Bill Hicks, like, yeah, looks like he rushed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, geez.
Well, yeah, God created Adam in one day and didn't bother to make a female for him, so he tried to get him to go through all the animals to find something to mate with.
Bestiality in the Bible, everybody. That was part of God's plan.
Oh, fuck me. Yeah, Ox, I completely agree with you on that. I've seen people take offense when you try to explain to them that we're just an animal, another animal. You know, they just think that's like sacrilegious or something. No, God made us better than animals. No, we are an animal.
Yeah, a lot of Christians get very offended by
Oh,
the
God,
implication
yeah.
that we're animals.
Very.
By definition, we're animals.
Well, if we're not animals, what are we? A plant or a fungus?
Well, I tend to be a fungus myself, but it's only because I'm sedentary.
It's even better when you actually give the definition of what an animal is. So you're saying we're not that? Then they just have nothing to say. They don't even understand what you're talking about.
Well, I consider insects an animal too. You know, they're from the insect branch of it, but they're all animals.
Yeah, they'd be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit like if like people remember that that debate with Aaron Ra and Kent Hovind from a few years ago. You can tell that Hovind learned a brand new. He'd never heard the word eukaryote before in his life until Aaron had to explain to him what that meant.
All animals and plants are eukaryotes.
Which, to be fair, I don't think I sort of knew particularly what that word was, but I wasn't the one out there claiming that evolution was false, and you know, so.
I'll admit I've never heard that word until just now.
Eukaryote?
Yeah.
Yeah, going through Aaron Ra's, I had the word a second ago. His phylogeny series, I learned a lot of new vocabulary.
Yeah.
Mange, I'm sorry. I always see your name, Mange, and I always have to keep myself from pronouncing it Mange. I'm sorry, I slipped that time.
Everybody take a drink. You got it wrong.
Look that word up.
What,
The eukaryotic branch of the family of life invented sex. That's literally when sex was invented.
Oh,
well,
okay.
basically, eukaryote is a cell with a nucleus.
Yeah.
Oh, kind of like the autotrophs.
Which eventually Kent Hovind managed to produce that basic definition after, I think, little bit of Google foo for a second there, you know. So,
you know, an animal is basically a multicellular eukaryotic life form that breathes oxygen.
I always thought that Kent Hovind was like the was nature's first jellyfish.
No, jellyfish have a purpose that is positive.
yeah.
Do they?
Yeah. They're food for stuff, and they keep the bait fish population and other things like that under control. They eat
okay.
and they're eaten. They're part of the balance of life.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, jellyfish are a major part of the diet for sea turtles.
Pretty sure there's a little bit more to the definition of animal, but that's the general definition there.
I remember as a kid seeing the first time I saw the picture of a Portuguese man of war, and I just thought that was fascinating. They could have these long tentacles and different colors and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, some of them, the tentacles can be a couple of meters long. And then there's the little tiny ones that they get in Australia that are like only the size of a dime, but can still deliver a painful sting.
Irukandji jellyfish, and that's a misnomer because there's multiple species like that can even kill you.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like
let's
that.
be honest,
It's like that little
there's a-
blue-tipped octopus. That can.
Well, there's a clue in what you said there. It's an animal from Australia. Of course, it's trying to kill you.
Yeah, well, I don't think a single one can kill you, but the problem is that they tend to be in great schools.
Kent
So
Hovind
you
is
won't
from
get stung by just one, you'll get stung by like 100 of them.
Kent Hovind is from Australia too, isn't he?
No, that's Ken Ham.
Oh, Ken Ham. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's
the other
Ken
one.
Ham, and I think also God, who's that guy who's he just jumps people? That street preacher who jumps people. Something.
Oh, not
It's
Ray
on the tip of
Comfort.
my
Ray Comfort.
Yeah,
Ray Comfort.
Ray
Yeah,
Comfort.
he's actually not Australian. He's from New Zealand. So
Yep, he's a
he's
Kiwi.
not far away. Not far away, but he's. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's no thing is they obviously left their countries to come to the United States because a guy like Ray Comfort. Let's be honest. The best that guy would have aspired to if he'd stayed in New Zealand is being like a really bad used car salesman. The same thing with Ken Ham. But they found a grift. They obviously knew because they went to America. They could work this grift.
Then we also have Josh Fartstein. I mean Fairstein. Forstein. I had trouble pronouncing his real name, actual last name, so I just started calling him Fartstein. It worked. I don't know if you know who he is.
Works for me.
He's the one who was talking about who wanted to rant about the Merry Christmas on Starbucks coffee mugs. Happy holidays.
Oh, for goodness sake, one of them.
Yeah, he's one of the ones who went on about that.
I mean,
I like how Starbucks ultimately resolved that just by doing no holiday greetings whatsoever.
I still complained about that.
Yeah,
I was quite happy when I got blocked on Twitter by Pastor Greg Locke, I must admit. Although a little bit annoyed because myself and One Ring were having a competition to see who could get blocked by Greg Locke first, and One Ring won by about 2 hours.
Well, I'm apparently blocked by J.K. Rowling.
My first celebrity block was Frank
That's
Turek.
an achievement. Yeah,
that's congratulatory, absolutely.
Yeah,
well,
I got blocked by Frank Turek for trying to throw facts at him.
Well, I don't know if I should consider it an achievement. I think she used the one of those blockchains and got a bunch of people. So the chances are you're blocked as well.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, we want to check on that now.
Regarding War on Christmas, one year, Bill O'Reilly, to try to win an argument with an atheist, he reduced Christianity to a philosophy. And Jon Stewart had to do War on Christmas Friendly Fire Edition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we add a little bit of orange to the look of things here?
I'm happy with the purple.
Okay.
Everybody just knows me as Purple anyway, so. Actually, to the point that I had to get the building manager to put the name Purple Rhymes with Orange on my mailbox because I had packages showing up in that name.
Yeah, I don't know as far as like on Twitter who's the worst of like these like conservative Christian right wing lunatics that seem to score the most own goals. I think it might be Kevin Sorbo, for someone who just like just continually self owns on Twitter. You know,
I'd respond to him more if I thought he'd actually respond back or at least read the damn comments, because I don't think he
I
does
don't think
either.
he does.
For the lot of them, it's a grift, and I actually don't
Yeah.
think they believe in the religion whatsoever.
Yeah, it's hard to sort with some of them which ones actually believe and which ones are grift.
I think
Ken
Sorbo
Ham and
actually
Ken
believes.
Hovind are definitely grifters.
Well,
I
Hogan's a grifter.
Yeah, I think Kevin Sorbo actually believes in this crap.
Maybe, but at the same time, he's probably also knowing that he ain't going to get many acting gigs outside of Christian cinema. You know. But I think the one that was telling about Kevin Sorbo was January the 6th. That was very telling of him. He was like he went from like, yes, it's happening, like, you know, when they started storming the Capitol, to obviously at some point realizing this isn't going to play so well with people. You know, people aren't as happy about this as he thinks they're going to be. So then he sort of changes tack to, hey guys, please calm down or whatever, don't storm the Capitol. And then an hour later, he went to, this was Antifa who actually stormed the Capitol. Like, you know, the Trump supporters were innocent. In 1 hour, in 1 hour, he went from supporting them to desperately to like, oh guys, calm it down, to then sort of like was saying, no, these weren't Trump fans, these were like Antifa infiltrate, you know, because he knew this one wasn't going to play so well. It dawned on him, I think.
Well, at least it shows his learning curve isn't a complete flat line.
Well, so many Republicans flipped back and forth within the first day or two.
They all know that they're fascists. I mean, the next video that I'm going to be producing is related to the first video with this avatar, where I actually have video of Pat Robertson's son laying out the plans that the Nazis used to take over the churches in Germany. And then we're going to go over exactly how, yeah, you outed the plans, but yet these are your plans. You know, it's like they know what they're doing. And history is rhyming. Just, I had a like 2 minutes of FDR's Arsenal of Democracy, where he's talking about the foreign agents, and you just listen to that, and then you get pictures of what's happening all over the West with Russia stirring the shit.
Though I suspect some people's learning curves are an inverse.
Yeah.
You mean the blowback syndrome, where the more you tell them, the more they dig in their heels into the stupidity?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a British guy, it's kind of heartbreaking to me, because people won't know. I like my football / soccer, and my favourite team is Southampton Football Club. And the guy who's like an absolute legend, you know, was a real legendary footballer for our club, was a guy called Matthew Le Tissier. He, though, has become this absolute. It started during the pandemic, I noticed, with like a little bit of anti-vax stuff. He has just gone ever further down this absolute rabbit hole of like far right conspiracy theories. It's heartbreaking to have seen, you know.
Yeah, I had a friend who went from being a Bernie supporter in 2016 to being a Trump supporter in the next election.
Yeah. Yeah, well, within a year. You know, it's crazy, isn't it?
I don't see how you go from Bernie to Trump.
That
Yeah,
was the craziest thing in that election, that people would actually do that because they didn't like Hillary. You know, it's like, how can you go 180 degrees from your feelings, and then profess that it's important that I get the guy who represents my feelings? You know,
I had a hard time understanding that one. Even trying to explain it to me, I was never really fully grasp how that
It's
made.
it's
I
the
have to jump to the
conspiracies and the
conclusion that
brainwashing.
I have to jump to the conclusion that he was probably too misogynistic to vote for a woman. That's the only thing I can come up with.
Nope, there's definitely more to it than that.
Yeah.
There's this wraparound. During the pandemic, when I first really started thinking and making videos, you know, spirit science is loaded to the rafters with nonsense. But they started with the QAnon and I'm like, well, it is a grift, so wherever the grift is, but there's like, if you listen to what the crap that comes out of the QAnon shaman, you can tell that he's got a hodgepodge of Christian and New Age ideas, and there's this wraparound, like where the people who were doing the New Age woo to make money before the pandemic probably got pissed off that they had to close their businesses, or it was somehow related to that. It's just a theory.
It's yeah. I mean,
well, Republicans pushed the big thing about, we had to get the economy started again as quick as possible. But they weren't talking about the mom and pop businesses. They were talking about, their stock market dividends might be lower.
I just couldn't believe that 2016 election, just looking at it as an outsider though, and listening to this guy who clearly didn't barely, I don't think he had a single actual policy for how he was going to govern the country that he was selling anyone on, other than this bloody wall he wanted to build. That's all, that was, and it was crazy. Now I will admit, I think to myself, if I'd have been an American, yes, I would have voted for Hillary. It would have been through fucking gritted teeth, mind you. It totally would have been. But I was like, given that there's only two options here, it's kind of like, it was just shocking. It was just shocking to me that many people could vote for this guy. It really was.
Probably one of the biggest reasons why the evangelicals just stick their heads in their sand, and they not in the sand, up their asses, and they live in an alternative reality from the perspective of a millennial. In 2008, there was a Gallup poll. 2/3 of liberals in America wanted the church to have more say in government, and only 1/3 of conservatives did, because Obama wound up inverting things. And you have people, especially the people who control the churches, they enjoy calling people godless. They enjoy having an enemy for themselves that goes bump in the night that they can justify hating, so that they don't have to look at the evil either in their own hearts or the evil billowing forth from the people that they say are servants of God. And for a lot of people, they saw the younger generations walking away from the GOP because they were full of shit. And they thought, this is our last chance to show the young folks that conservative government is great. And it's like, no, it's a torture. It's a psychological torture, especially for someone who's religious like me, to just remember all the years of you're communist, you're socialist for caring about poor people. All the values that you were raised with are trashed by the people who control the churches. And you notice that they don't even, like I quoted that scripture about unhealthy cravings, about quarrels, about words. And you realize all these people don't even know their own books. And it's sad to think of the psychological abuse you go through. And then these people don't care. It's just a play for them. I'm sorry if I talk too much.
Oh no, that's perfectly fine, Commander. In fact, I got a question for you. First of all, I didn't know that you consider yourself religious. I'll watch my tongue from now on. But the thing I like to ask so-called Christians and religious people is, where in the Bible does it say that God hates transgender people?
It doesn't. And the particular no-nos in the Bible regarding those issues stem not from the act itself, but there were external religions where you have like a male deity, and they had cult prostitutes, and everyone was encouraged to worship by paying the prostitutes. And you would wind up with sometimes hetero relations regarding the prostitutes, but also homo relations regarding the prostitutes, regarding the gender of the god and other things. And the Jews observed that, and that's why there's a commandment of no cult prostitutes. So regarding the current, the context has been lost, because Paul, when he was condemning these things, and then he said, in those who teach it, he wasn't referring to those who say, don't kill the people participating in it. He was referring to religious professionals who encouraging the attending of cult prostitutes. It was actually part of their religion itself. And again, once Constantine and Muhammad removed a lot of those cults from the Middle East and the Mediterranean basin, they weren't really popular much elsewhere. And the context has gotten lost. So, I don't particularly hate anybody. It had more to do with the picture of the relation, like the Christians say the bridegroom is Jesus and the church is the bride of Christ. But of course there are men in the church, so what are you getting gay married to Jesus? And then Israel is often depicted as a wife to Hashem, but it had more to do with cult prostitutes and just the people seeing no reason for it, and it being connected to external gods that were not the God of the Israelites. But that whole context has gotten lost, and that's where the origins, it was never written down, the origins of the prohibition, but the whole context of why these people are throwing around their hate, it's not supposed to be like, especially not with the New Testament, because the Apostle Paul lists all the sins, the fornicators, the adulterers, the basically people we're talking about, etc., of all these who, in other words, it's not like damnable. It's but nowhere in the Bible does it actually say. But I gave you the context of where it was from, but I don't hate anybody. In fact, that's part of the Bible that these people use just to stir up the hate. I ignore it, because hating people and condemning people and telling other grown adults how to live their lives with other consenting adults, frankly, it causes agita for me to have to try to run everyone's life. So I believe in the concept of freedom, where you should be free to live your life. But I hopefully gave a relatively coherent answer as to where the origins of it came from. But I was never taught to hate anybody.
Have you heard of the film 1946?
Not really. I'll look it up.
Yeah, do look it up, and I'd love you to get a view of it. I haven't seen it either. I don't know where to find it. But it's supposedly, well, not supposedly, I saw the makers discussing it. It's a film that traces down the language of the Bible, particularly the so-called ban on homosexuality. And that their discovery over their research found that the word homosexual never existed in any translation of the Bible until 1946.
And there's actually talk amongst rabbis that the term a man lying with another man like he is a woman could also be referring to prostituting your integrity or being submissive.
But apparently, if you take it with that translation of the Jewish, if you take the Jewish translation, or the Hebrew, I should say, translation, it was actually perverted from the translation is do not lie with children. It was against pedophilia, not homosexuality.
I will look that up, but as far as I'm concerned, grown adults should pay attention to their own lives, unless, of course, someone's taking consent away from another person, either chemically or the person is not capable for physical or mental reasons or age. But other than that,
the bottom line is always informed consent. Do they understand what's going to happen, and do they give consent?
Which Bible passage was it again?
The typical Leviticus one.
Oh, what the man shall not lie with man. Yada yada.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the one where someone had that verse tattooed on them. And someone had to explain, you do know what it says about like getting your skin marked in the book of Leviticus, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I never understood religious, it says no tattoos. So what do? They get tattoos of religion.
Well, morality is only what's convenient for the person making the decisions. It's always been that way. By the way, I just saw this. I'm watching Court TV because there's actually nothing any better on TV. And they have this little crawl that goes by nonstop. And apparently a former quarterback down in Florida, yes, Florida, who's the father of some other who's the son of another famous football player. And his name is something like Jit something or other, has agreed to a situation where they will drop 5 counts of felony child pornography for him. Isn't it interesting? A football hero gets child pornography charges dropped, but we can go and scream at drag queens that don't do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, and now that Pride Month's over, can they all calm the fuck down for another year? I don't think they're going to, but the people who've been losing their fucking nut about Pride the last month is.
Yeah, July is Disability Pride Month, so I think we're supposed to be raging against people in wheelchairs now.
Let's see. The word used, more direct translation is, and with a male not you shall lie as with a woman, an abomination. So that word male is zakar.
Yeah, that's what I had heard too, that it didn't mention homosexuality until it came to an English translation.
So that just means male, intimately, or males, man, intimately.
Or it could be Trump's relationship with Putin.
Okay, I have to step away for a moment. You kids behave. Mage is in charge.
Oh, your
Mage
guys in
has got
trouble
to,
now.
yeah, you've got to be the adult in the room if you mage.
Yeah, damn it.
Oh dear. Oh, but it's
Well, when that blurb comes up again when that blurb comes up again in the screen crawl, I'll get the name and I'll say it out loud so everybody hears it, because that's, I think, an important thing.
I remember Gary Isle of Wight was showing me a soccer game, well, football games. Let me be diplomatic in the UK, and there were people basically chanting against a football player who happened to have been a pedo. I shouldn't have used that word. Someone who liked children way too much.
was that
They were insulting him.
Adam Johnson, perhaps. I'm
Possibly.
guessing. Yeah.
And then he showed me video of someone who brought a 9-foot tall inflatable, you know what, into there, and they were.
I think
the
I know the
security
video.
Took it away.
I think I know the video you're talking about. Actually, it's like football chants, but they're some of the most insulting ones.
Yes.
I mean, some of them are quite creative. I'll give them that, but some of them are like, they're over the line. Some of them, but
it looks fun.
Yeah, I know the one you're on about when they're when it gets taken off of them and they started chanting, "We want our dick back. We want our dick back."
Yeah. If I ever go to the UK, well, when Starsky goes to the mill, I'm gonna go to the UK. I have to try to attend a football game.
Yeah. Yeah, some of those chants were quite funny. I will admit, some of them are over the line, but you know.
Another. Oh, here it is. Jalen Kitna, quarterback. Jalen Kitna, son of retired NFL quarterback John Kitna, has agreed to a plea deal that will dismiss 5 felony child pornography charges stemming from his arrest last November.
You know how strict they are with child laws in that regard. I was going to try to make a video of a fetus listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene talking and then say, "Please abort me." Now, I noticed that when I looked to buy one, there were none. And I said, okay, so the reason why there were none available is probably no one's willing to, because the child's in the birthday suit. And I just said, nah, this is probably going to open up a bag of worms. But I thought it was funny. The fetus just listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene whine about Bill Gates' fake meat and zaps in the belly and say, abort me now.
Yeah, one of the things that's going on right now, and I'm addressing the chat mostly in this, is they've gone through the phase of calling us pedophiles, groomers, and indoctrinators and stuff, and they're beginning to say that the LGBT community is trying to get the pedophilia freaks to be included when referred to LGBT.
Oh, they've been doing that for a while.
Well, yeah, they have, but they're starting a new effort at it, very deliberately again, and it's absolutely 100% lie. If you hear somebody saying something like that, please.
It's blood liable. It's just another version of that. They're just trying to cause outrage and incite murder.
Exactly, and that's what everybody has to do, is to stand up and say, you are causing trouble, you are lying, it's not true. That we feel just as hateful towards pedophilia as you do, except we're not going to accuse you of it. We'll wait till the charges come up and then accuse you of it.
Well,
Yeah, there have been people trying to lump pedophilia in with the LGBT since the 80s, at least.
A good line to use is, no, that can't possibly be true because Republicans don't like to be hanging around with gay people. So that's what I've used to counter it.
The only difference is I'd say that there's maybe a bit more nuanced argument to it than what they might want to do.
Usually, I mean, my usual one I hit them with is the when they start with the whole gay people, gay LGBTQ people are preying on children. It's like institutionalized preying on children, and within that community, I'm like, I think you're confusing that with church.
Yeah.
And can I basically say something now? As far as I'm not LGBTQ, I am a ally, and the reason why I've never hated people, like in high school, I was invited to an orgy and I refused. And then basically the people who were insulted that I wouldn't sleep with them because I didn't like them decided to label me basically as such and put me through all of the same hell that you guys go through. And I basically had a choice. Should I sleep with the pigs and then have the teasing removed or keep my integrity? And I decided to keep my integrity. But one thing is, once you wind up being abused in the manner that the LGBTQ community is abused, you realize the abuse is over the top. It's you hear all the accusations that if you're going to accuse someone of being LGBTQ and they acknowledge that they are, only accuse people of what they're guilty of. That's the thing.
You should never make an accusation if you don't have evidence.
It's also really important to remember that when these people are doing these things, like, and of course, we're thinking mostly about the transgender community right now. When they're calling, saying all these terrible things about us, their intention is to do nothing other than hurt us. They're not going to get any law changed because of what they do. They're not going to get anybody on their side because of what they do. All they want to do is to hurt people. That's it, and it's not only childish as all fuck. It's just wrong.
The Republicans like to use it because a good emotional issue will get their base riled up without them having to talk about the issues that actually affect people.
And they need to keep that base really riled up. 2006, 2008 is a prime example. The Democrats here did a giant ass kissing, and there was no energy in that base. And the Republicans got huge shellackings. And so basically they took everything that Kennedy and Johnson did with the blessings of all the churches and synagogues during the Cold War, and they screamed communism. And they basically said, well, if you're not going to give us anything in reality to hate you for, we're just going to make it up. And it's just about hate. It's hate, 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 hate. Manipulation and hate.
You won't get me in disagreement out of me, that's for sure.
Yep. It's basically what the Republican Party's been running on for the last 50 years is, just stir up people's emotions and not talk about the issues.
And it's the first major political party to suck the nuts of the Kremlin, despite calling everyone who stands in America against the Kremlin. They're the ones sucking the nuts of the Kremlin.
Yeah, they're calling us communists and they're buddying up to Putin.
In that situation, though, they're taking the opportunity to say that no, Putin's a good guy because that country changed a democratic economy and stuff like that after the Kremlin went down and stuff, and they failed to mention that they got away from communism and they went to the other end of the spectrum and are now absolute dictatorial authoritarian government.
there is a peer-reviewed article, Hobbes, Locke, Thomas Paine, and Vladimir Putin's Russia. It's about 25,000 words long. I wound up coming across it doing a report on Thomas Paine. And the author of the book said that Vladimir Putin married the worst that Soviet communism and feudal Europe had to offer, noting that the oligarchs had more power to make people's lives miserable than the Soviets, but not because the Soviets lacked the desire. It was the bureaucracy that kept the Soviet, they had to get the approval of the Kremlin before they could start making your life living. It's a really good article. They were referring to Ronald Reagan as a moderate Marxist, some of the people who took over in the 90s. They literally went the full Ayn Rand thing and let the mob took over. And now, instead of oligarchical communism, they have oligarchical capitalism.
Yeah, it's funny how many of the people who speak against Putin have fallen out of windows.
Yeah, that is. I can't believe that people have not made more of that issue.
Well, I mean, for goodness sake, I mean, the guy has carried out assassinations on like British soil, including like chemical weapon attacks, to get just so he can get one of his a dissident,
Yeah.
He's a threat. The propaganda machine of Russia is a threat to the entire West, and there are people in America and Europe who are willing to suck Putin's nuts to hopefully try to get that propaganda machine to help them in elections.
Yeah, well, because they know he has been able to influence social media.
He has been, but I think he's in big trouble right now, Putin. I think he.
Well, yeah, the Ukraine thing's a problem for him because he's getting his ass kicked, but at the same time, he's got no way to get out of it and save face.
Jeff, you're referring to the so-called revolution that didn't happen, right?
Well, that wasn't really a revolution, but I think that was a crack. And I know there's some people who think that this was sort of something that was planned or contrived from the beginning. I don't know. No, not with Putin's, not because it made Putin look weak not with his own people and on a global stage. Putin cannot allow himself to be made to look weak.
Yeah, I think it was one commander who tried to challenge him, but it was put down.
It's important. He was a general, I believe.
I mean, he was, and let's be honest, like they're not exactly the good guys. Either those Wagner group, they're not exactly good guys.
Exactly,
they're nasty.
It's important for Western America to realize that this guy is considered to be worse than Putin in his attitudes of totalitarianism and punishing people and things. So nobody should be happy about this.
Yeah, but I don't see the war in the Ukraine ending unless Putin is taken out. I don't see any other way that can end.
Well, they could run out of money.
Well, apparently they have. That the biggest problem the Russian army is facing is that apparently for decades, people have been skimming off the money that was meant to maintain the armed forces, so their equipment was never maintained.
It's called Vronio. It means there's a lie that everyone knows is bullshit, but everyone goes along with it anyway to make its life easier. There is a specific word in Russian for that kind of lie. The society is that way. Like in English, we need multiple words to describe that kind of lying. In Russian, they need only one because they needed to invent a word for it.
Yeah, well, they're feeding the troops rations that expired more than 10 years ago because that's all the army had in stock.
So Russians
That's
are
what
inventing words.
Kleptocracies do.
So Russia's inventing words, and Americans can't deal with an adjectorial prefix, as in
Yep.
cis.
Well,
God, I think that's so funny.
Oh, good lord. Yeah.
well, the Newspeak, like I was reading the book 1984 for some inspiration because that book has been banned in Florida, and instead of making like penguins just making fun of people, I think actually like doing serious scripted stuff would be better overall for my channel. And there's some really good lines in 1984 describing not only the use of words, i.e., newspeak, that it's supposed to shrink the one's consciousness and ability to think, but also when Winston is talking about his ex-wife as she had a noble face until he realized there was nothing behind it. She was the most hideously stupid, and I'm paraphrasing, but you get images of she would she would swallow any imbecility that was given to her by the party, and you just picture Green or Bobert, but that book, a lot of the manipulation tactics that Orwell knew communists used, you see it.
Interestingly enough, with the that Next Generation episode where Picard's is captured and he's going, there are 4 lights. That's actually taken from 1984.
Yep.
Perp, in the future, you're going to have to make sure that this group does not get together again on your show. There's way too much intelligence going on. Commander, you're really. I'm impressed that you really are a smart person.
Yeah, we're not used to staying on serious topics for this long.
Maybe I should put 1984 on the movie night list.
That'd be okay.
Yeah.
There
I
three
know I
different
watched
versions.
it at one point, but it was decades ago.
Isn't Fahrenheit 451 also available?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's actually 3 different versions of 1984 that's out there. There's I think a 1950s or 60s version, one that's actually made in 1984, and then another one that was done just this year.
Yeah, I'm sure that the one I saw was the one made in the 60s.
Because there's the one in the 80s with John Hurt, isn't there, as well?
Yeah, there's actually one that's made in 1984.
Yeah, that's the one with John Hurt plays Winston, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking maybe doing, because it looks like the greatest.
I missed your night the other night, didn't I? Because it was the movie I was suggesting, but
yeah, unfortunately you missed it. Yeah, next week I'm thinking Labyrinth. Same time.
All right, that's a bit more light-hearted.
Then you seem to have really take that movie, really touched you, didn't it?
What? Which one? Sorry.
The one, Pride.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
We just saw it on our movie night on Monday.
I absolutely love that movie.
Yeah, it really was touching for Jenny there, for as I can tell.
Yeah.
It mimicked my life way too closely. The period that it took place, where I was at in my personal life, in terms of coming out, and in terms of all the friends I had dying of AIDS, all the social strife that LGBT were experiencing at that time because of AIDS and things. And it was just too close to home, and I was in tears most of the film.
But yeah, it's by all accounts, it is fairly close to what actually happens. I mean, obviously, there's been a few bits of creative license taken with it, but apparently, it is pretty close to what actually happened.
The thing I found interesting about that was the parallels between what the homosexuals were dealing with, the negative feedback, and what trans people are dealing with now.
Yeah. But it was, I think it was. I mean, it was obviously it was because it was. It was a big thing when the National Union of Mine Workers led the Pride Parade in London. It was a big thing.
Okay, so can gummy bears be claimed as an emotional support animal?
Only until you bite them.
Yes.
I have thought about registering Molly as an emotional support animal. There is some benefits to it, but I'm not quite sure she's trained enough for it yet, in my personal opinion.
That's the problem I have, is the people who claim emotional support animals for animals that have no training. You know, 'cause they're not necessarily good around other people then.
Yeah, they're technically don't really actually require training to be registered as that, but there are a few benefits. It's mostly for travel, and when it comes to like if you're living in an apartment, you don't have to pay the extra fees for them, because it's they're basically a service animal. But
I don't mind paying the extra damage deposit for having pets. I can understand the reasoning for that.
The only reason I'm thinking about having her registered would be it would give me access to be able to bring her into other stores where I otherwise wouldn't be able to bring her.
Yeah, that's the main thing, that you would be allowed to bring her into certain public buildings that otherwise she wouldn't be allowed in.
Yeah, that's the thing that would be the most useful. No, don't chew on that.
And I think that particularly comes into play, if you wanted to bring her with you going into any kind of government building.
Yeah, government building, grocery stores. I can bring her in basically any building really.
Well, there's a difference between a service dog and an emotional support dog. Service dogs are required to have training. They're the guys that are, dogs for the blind, and dogs that have people have seizures, those kinds of things.
Well, emotional support or animals actually is considered a service animal.
Yeah, Jenny's saying, ones that are actual assistance animals that are trained to do more than just be there for them to pet, but actually, fetch things for them and do things.
Yeah, I just don't think. I mean, I'm trying to be responsible with it, because I don't think Molly is quite trained enough to be able to, for me to do that kind of thing with her.
Yeah, well, the main thing is they have to be trained, to be calm and to sit still when other people are around them.
Yeah.
I'm actually I had promised Sammy that once I got the place cleaned up for the inspection, that I was going to get him a companion. So I'm trying to figure out whether or not it's feasible for me to get to the animal shelter on the bus now, since the van is down.
Are you allowed to take a cat on the bus with you?
You can take a small animal on the bus if they're contained in a carrier. So obviously, if it's a new cat, I would definitely, have him zipped up in the carrier.
Oh, you mean like when I go out with Aunt Jer and she puts me in that kennel and then can take me somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just checking.
Yeah, unfortunately, both of our kitties were supposed to go to the vet the day after the van got wrecked. So they missed their vet appointments, and they're both behind on their vaccines now.
Yeah, I still gotta get over to the vet and talk to him about that heartworm prevention stuff.
Ox, I have seen people who have worn large snakes and claim that they're emotional support animals. I can kind of get it, but I have trouble with the idea that a reptile could actually be trained enough for that sort of thing.
The oddest one I've seen is the emotional support gator, Wally.
Yeah.
Commander is saying that they have to leave.
Yeah, Commander had to go already.
Oh, okay. Great. Thank you for being here, Commander, if you're still listening by chance.
Yeah. Well, if you have something more to say to them, the links are in the description, so you can contact Commander on Twitter or Discord.
See, Jer, I pick you for those kind of jokes because you know how to play along, and I do enjoy it too. So thanks.
Hey, being a house pet's a good gig if you can get it.
That's the collar thing that I like.
With my late fiance, I was her pet, and it was pretty nice to just sit there on the floor watching TV and have her scratch my head.
Yeah, I could never get that purring thing down though.
Oh, do you roar instead?
No, I just kind of dribble and stuff.
Yeah, see, wild cats can either roar or purr. They can't do both because it has to do with some structure in their larynx that gets hardened about whether or not they can purr. The purr is actually a modified growl.
So when you're petting your cat and it's purring, it's really growling at you, wanting to bite your hand off.
No, the purring is a happy sound that they make to try and reassure each other.
Lions and tigers purr as well.
Yeah, I forget now which cats it are that purr and which ones roar. Lions can't purr because they roar. But cheetahs can purr. Okay, Andrew says a service animal has to be trained to perform specific tasks that assist your disability. Yeah, I really can't see Petunia as helping Sloth Girl get anything.
You got to teach your dog how to nuzzle on command. To snuggle with you and stuff.
Yep. Ox has a point. Anything that would keep people 6 feet away from me, I'm in favor of. There are actually certain things about the pandemic I enjoyed.
Yeah. Well,
it really saved me a lot of money on deodorant. I just
just
saying.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh God!
In fact, I just had to buy deodorant for the first time this past week.
The doctors are still saying that this H1N5, I think they're referring to it as the bird flu that's went around and made eggs prices go up so high because they had to kill several million chickens.
Yeah, the avian flu.
That flu is still out there, and it has transformed or whatever to humans, and by way of the fact that we're mammals.
Oh yeah.
And they are cautioning that this thing could explode really bad.
Yeah, well, the avian flu is a seasonal thing. It's just it's like influenza. That's a slightly different strain each year, and it's whether or not the strain is able to be carried by mammals.
Yeah, but they're talking intensity, not just yes or no attack.
Yeah,
they're talking killing people.
Yeah, so this one can get more serious.
I'm not looking forward to the next pandemic with the mentality we currently have.
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, just another pandemic, bad enough as it is, but
Yeah, the US and the UK would be screwed.
We would be so fucked.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing I said with COVID. If the conservatives don't want to protect themselves against a deadly disease, fine. There'll just be less of them to annoy me.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are people like Sloth Girl who can't get the vaccine because of compromised immunities.
Yeah, they're going to bring down a lot of other people around them with that.
Even the first round of COVID, who died the most were the elderly.
Yeah, but it was enough to cause a dent in Trump's victory. He did win the election. He is a president. Biden's just a fake president pretending. Trump has control of the military.
Yeah. Don't you know everything bad that's happened has been Biden's fault? Well, even though Trump is running everything from Mar-a-Lago.
Well,
and I
yeah,
didn't make that
that's
up.
why Trump had to have all those classified documents there.
Yeah, and I did not make that one up. That's actually something that some of these guys believe.
Oh yeah, what I said is too, that there are people who actually believe that Biden is not the president that Trump really is, that Trump has control of the military, and that Biden has control of a fake military, just for appearance sake.
I know there are people who believe that.
Yeah, there are.
Yep, there are. It's just a question of what percentage of them believe it. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's scary that there are a significant number of people that still believe Trump is president.
Yeah, I was watching this one interesting interview. It was actually a former Trump supporter interviewing a current Trump supporter.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah,
that was interesting. It was basically pointing out the former guy was basically pointing out, he lied. He didn't build the wall, and the current one was just almost borderline incoherent in what he was saying.
yeah. If you find that again, leave a link for it in the Twitter group.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find it again sometime. I think it was something that was covered by Kyle Klinsky on Secular Talk. To double check.
Yeah. Now, see, this is one of the points I was thinking that during the pandemic, if they had said that COVID could make you sterile, they would have all got vaccinated. There are still guys who think that they can sell their sperm for thousands of dollars a load now because they're unvaxxed. There have actually been advertisements for it. And yes, there are people that think that Trump is the new Messiah. Some pastor had even said they should add another book to the Bible about Trump.
Yeah, incredible delusion. How deep the delusion has gone. It's just unbelievable, literally unbelievable.
Yeah, and Telltale has covered a lot of it from the angle of analyzing it as a cult.
Never underestimate the power of a crowd, in a mass crowd of stupid people.
Well, it isn't the formula for figuring out the intelligence of a crowd is to take the average intelligence and divide by the number of people involved.
Yeah. So let's see. The one they just had at South Carolina was a 6 divided by 50,000.
What's the old famous one that George Carlin said? Think about how stupid the average person is, and then realize that at least half of them are stupider than that.
Well, or just always assume that at least half the people are stupider than you are. Of course, something like 80% of people believe that they're more intelligent than average.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that one too. The one that really makes me it's tragic is.
But I'll say that in my case that I think I've moved up. I think the world's getting stupider. That I've moved up the ladder without really doing anything.
Well, yeah, the baseline keeps sinking.
Yeah.
One of the most damaging belief systems that goes on out there is when you interview people to rate the generalized overall accomplishments or presence or direction of the Congress, and it's over 50% negative. But then you ask about how people feel about their congressperson, and they think their congressperson is perfect, and it's all the rest of them that are bad. And of course, everybody thinks that. So what does that mean? Then nobody processes critical thinking.
Yep. There's an old meme I made. 2020 set the bar so low we have to bore underground to find it. And it's just been sinking ever since.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yep, still here.
Okay.
I keep forgetting I've got to hit one more button to get these things to show up for everyone else.
Well, what are we looking at?
An old meme I made. 2020 set the bar so low we're having to bore underground just to find it. And I think it has continued to sink since then.
Yeah, I'm afraid it has. But I really want to believe that the new kids. I don't even know what this new generation is called.
Yeah, I am just hoping that young people will, get out there and vote in significant numbers.
They say it's an entire generation is going to reject the Republican Party all at once.
Yep,
and
that's what I'm hoping for.
And we really need that to happen. These people need to be shut down once and for all.
They need to be consigned to the fucking dustbin of history now.
Yeah.
The Republicans really need to have just an overwhelming defeat where they lose so many seats in Congress, they have to completely re-examine their strategy.
But I bet you that if that happened, that all they would really examine is how their public appearance for their strategy is. I do not believe that conservatives have the ability to stop being conservative. I think you find, cases, individual cases where that happens, but there's so few and far between.
Yeah.
I mean, your best hope is best hope in a way is to get them fight. You can get into a situation where they start fighting amongst themselves. So this is where, like, I think in my country now, I feel like we might have a chance of even though our main opposition isn't that great at the moment, Labour Party, we should theoretically have a good chance of inflicting a pretty big defeat on them because they're at each other's. The Conservative Party here are at each other's throats.
Well, historically, the only way the U.S. has gotten a new party was when the Conservative Party sunk into oblivion. So what was then considered the Progressive Party became the new Conservative Party, and a new Progressive Party started.
Yeah.
It's basically just until they go so far right that they can't get enough votes to win anything.
Well, that is exactly what happened with the Dixiecrats.
Yep.
In the 1960 election with Nixon, Kennedy, that kind of stuff. That's when it was created. And
well, it's the same thing with the Bull Moose Party.
Yeah. Theodore Roosevelt stole all of Fighting Bob La Follette's progressive concepts, but didn't know how to implement them or explain them well enough, so he lost. And Bob La Follette ends up, in the gutters because nobody would listen to him because Teddy Roosevelt did such a bad job of it. But La Follette's the guy. The Wisconsin progressives are the people who established the things like the 40-hour work week, the weekends off, healthcare, dealing with black lung disease, just all this shit came out of the Wisconsin progressive movement.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a tragedy for us now to look at our state that it's become red. It's just, my God.
Well, I think I think some of the sort of starts of healthcare or welfare reform in Britain was started by the old Liberal Party, but they haven't held government outright for 100 years now. But that part of their downfall in a way is that they had so many splits amongst themselves, which is so it could kind of. So, like the early 1920s, the Liberal Party just collapsed, and it was the Labour Party became the main party of the left.
Yeah, well, that's how the Democrats got to be, a powerful party in the 60s, was by teaming up with the trade unions, getting the support of the trade unions, and that's why we got things like Jenny was saying, like solidifying the 40-hour work week and so many workers' rights.
Well, this is the whole reason that the Labour Party was created in Britain was actually to try and give the trade unions voice in Parliament.
Did it come out of the miners' movement or earlier?
It came out of the general trade union movement. I mean, it's the like the trade unions Congress and so on. I've got a book on the history of the Labour Party somewhere. I haven't read it in forever though, so a lot of my knowledge is.
Why don't we set up
pretty...
Why do we set up a Discord thing and you can read it to us?
Yeah.
I have to find it. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That's the whole reason I've been a Democrat all my life. Is my father was a member of the Carpenters Union. And he was fully aware that he wouldn't have been able to support our family without all the benefits the union gave him.
Mm-hmm. My dad was a union guy too.
That without the union, we wouldn't have health coverage.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some unions still don't have that because it's just too expensive for them. They're too small of a union.
Yeah, unfortunately, too many unions these days are no longer run by the people involved, but they farm it out to a management agency. So the union becomes nothing but another level of management. The people who are negotiating the contracts have no vested interest in them.
That becomes, that on some level becomes an issue with all, with all trade unions to a degree. But I see you say it is a bit of an issue. I think when you've got unelected officers doing the negotiating, though, I think that is a big issue.
Yeah, I've seen it happen. The union that my ex was in was a union to cover city workers. And yeah, basically that's what had happened was they had some management company doing the negotiations. And the city decided for the negotiations they would, fly the management company out to this golf resort for the weekend. It's like, yeah, they're not being bought off.
Well, neither is the Supreme Court. There's no conflict of interest here.
Yeah, my ex wound up without having health coverage for her kids. That was what the union contract got them, was that the copay on the health coverage was close to 50% of what she was making.
Wow. Yeah, I remember. I got a job once working at a photo processing lab, management, and one of the perks I was offered was that after 6 months I would get health insurance, which I thought was great. So I'm going to spend some 6 months here and get health insurance. So I signed on. And my 6 months went by, and they brought me in the office to tell me all about the health insurance. And they said, okay, you pay this amount, and we pay this amount. And I was paying 90%.
Yeah.
And the policy was $2,000 a month.
Yep.
And this
either that or what a lot of companies do is that nobody passes their 6-month review; they get replaced.
And this was in the year 2000 or 2005 that it was that expensive.
Yeah, the Supreme Court is doing everything they can to gut any power the unions have to strike. Okay,
Well,
Jeff. Mark was asking how your strike had gone.
we're voting on a deal at the moment, which I've got to be honest, it's not a great outcome. It's not the outcome we wanted, but I feel it's probably as good as it compared to what they were trying to do to us. We've had to make some concessions, but I mean, compared to what they were trying to do to us, which essentially would have torn up all of our rights. So yeah, it's not quite the outcome I was hoping for, but it's better than what it could have been. We are voting on this particular deal at the moment. Now I am a little concerned that if we vote against it, that it means we'll have to go back out again, and I don't know that there's the appetite to do it. So,
Yeah. Well, it must be kind of hard. How long have
but the
been off the job and
but the railway. But I mean, like railway strikes. I mean, we haven't been off the job like for a year straight or anything like that. We've been, they've been like 24, 48 hour sort of actions because, I mean, like the railway workers are like a year into their dispute now.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem like slowing down anytime soon. And they've got an added obstacle there, which is the government's getting in the way of that. Because apparently a lot of the train companies have been wanting to do a deal with the trade unions.
Well, I think that goes back to what Nerdy was saying about all the train ticket offices being closed.
Yeah, well, this is it. They're closing down ticket offices. They want to take things like like the conductors off the trains and so on. So the only person you'd have actually representing the railway on a train would be the bloody driver. And you can see the problems with that.
Yeah, a lot of cities in the U.S. tried to do that with the subways. And then a short time later, they wind up having to hire private security guards to walk up and down the trains.
Yeah, well, I don't think there is. I don't think there is anyone representing the railways on the London Underground, because we've only got the one underground railway in the UK, which is London's Underground. There's no other city that's got that sort of thing in the UK.
Hey, Perp, I left a message.
Okay, just a moment.
I took a train a year or so ago. Actually, the first one I've taken in my adult life, and it was really kind of like, I was really sad. You see all these films from history of Union Station and all this kind of thing, and the excitement of travel and the glamour of it, so to speak. And there was this big empty train station with two guys there.
Yeah.
One selling tickets and the other guy's in the back typing whatever. And then one of them comes out when the train shows up and says, "Here's your train," and kind of halfway helps people get in. And it was just like, it was just very disappointing.
I mean, the price gouging the railroad companies have done on fares here are disgusting.
Well,
I mean, it shouldn't cost the same to, like, if I wanted to go from like where I live up to, say, Scotland, it shouldn't cost the same to take a train there as it should to take a flight.
Yeah. Well, we have run well past the 2-hour mark, so I think we should wrap it up here for today. Jeff, do you have anything you want to plug before we go?
I've got my channel. I'm just doing the odd little thing here and there on it at the moment. So,
yeah, I saw you did your little rant on American Independence Day.
Oh yeah. Happy Treason Day for yesterday.
Well, see, you can't call it Treason Day because for us that's January 6th.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I have something to mention. We keep not making good connections as far as when we can all get together at the same time. But I am going to be getting together with the channel League of it's a big long name.
Yeah,
League
Leah.
of
League of
Exceptional
Exceptional.
Humanists or
Yeah.
something like that.
I used to know what it was. It'll come back.
Yeah, and it's going to be at least a 1 hour program and stuff. So stay tuned for that. But I don't know exactly when it's going to be. And secondly, if you're familiar with Godless Granny, she's got her show, and we did one last week that went fairly well. And
Yeah, it was a good one.
Thank you.
It got intense at points, but it was a good discussion.
Yeah, so I was on there, and I'm just kind of pushing people to go watch her replay of it.
Yeah, I we should get a link for that.
Let me see if I can get a link. Let me see if I can get the link. Or
okay, thanks, Mage. You're quicker at that than I am.
I should, as I'm a regular on there, I should plug One Ring 42's channel for media musings that we do on Sundays, as I'm a regular on there. Myself, Ring, Ring's other half, Noodle, and Chaos is sometimes on that. Kitty's become quite a regular on there now as well. So
yeah. It's a good program. He just does it too early in the morning. On a
I think that's a concession to myself and Noodle, to be fair. But
well, there's a link to the.
Okay, thanks, Mage. Yeah, to Godless Granny's stream.
Yeah, that
where
one stream.
She had a Christian couple on there discussing the transphobia issues with Jenny.
I wouldn't mind having a crack at those too.
Well, the woman she had on like a year before, who really seems like a nice woman, but she doesn't realize how much she herself has been indoctrinated.
Godless Granny said this to me as well, that at the end of the thing, I tell her I enjoyed talking with her, blah blah blah, gave her a little PR rub behind her neck, and said I'd love to do this again with you sometime. And she said, okay, yeah, we will. Granny thinks that she's very serious about that, so we might have a rerun at that. And
she sounded like she's someone who might be willing to learn.
I actually get the impression that a lot of people who buy into this stuff are like those two. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily bad. They just been indoctrinated into the.
Yeah, well, and too many of them, they've gotten all of their information from a single source, so they haven't seen opposing views very much.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I think most people are like them.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that she needed to hear about the world of trans from somebody who's been in it a long damn time, and that would be me.
Well, this is one of the few reasons I still talk to and get on with that Isaiah Diesel, because I sometimes get the feeling he is willing to learn, but it is a slow process.
Yeah, I agree. I have some interactions with Diesel too for the same thing. He was actually talking about having me on for another show, but he's never setting a date. So I don't know when that might happen.
I think I'm supposed to be on with him on Saturday, actually, but
he's talking
on
to me
his
about
channel.
He's talking to me about doing a show last weekend, but I don't know if I upset him or not, but.
Yeah,
he kind of stopped talking to me, and then
I think I need to poke him an email again for a date, because he was talking about having me and Beck on to have some questions about trans.
NJ, good night. Have a lovely sleep, and again, thanks for our talk earlier.
Yep. Bye, NJ. Okay. Mage, did you have anything you want to plug before we go?
Well, I'm planning on doing a garden tour, which I actually am late on getting to, but and you guys want to join in on movie night? That's going to be on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, the movie night's going to be a private affair, so anybody who's interested in that will have to DM Mage on Twitter to be involved in that.
Yep, they'll be in the standard DM groups I'm in with yours, Lavender Ladies, Bimils Bobs. If you're not in any of those groups, you can just send me a message and I'll send you the link to it.
We're getting together on Discord.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'll use the StreamYards thing again. That seems. I was checking out Discord. I can't seem to quite get the thing to come up right.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. We're not on Discord.
Yeah. Wait, I set up a StreamYards link. You don't need to have a microphone or camera to come in. You can be in the backstage and just watch and just talk in the private chat. It's no big deal.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's not live. In other words.
No, it's not live.
Okay, well, with that, and I just like to thank all my supporters, Robert X and Ox, who have been here also working as moderators, Skitscrasher, of course, Kitty the Atheist, the Lavender Lady, Greg Hartwick, and Southern Cell, and Vonrek. I appreciate you guys helping me keep things running here and helping to pay the internet bill for me. So with that, we will wish you all a good day.
Bye-bye, Maya. Is that